argumentative person. I know that I disagree with anyone. However, I did in fact have a ministry in the Church of England. Now I'm very glad, Carrie, that you don't know about it, because in my last week as a curate, as we call it in England, I made the local newspaper. Local curate removed from the field for over-vigorous play was basically what it said. I was knocked out earlier in the game, and unfortunately completely by accident, my fist collided with the person who'd done it, and he was carried off. That was my last game in England, but when the case was taken to the Rugby Football Board, I never had to appear because the guy chairing it said, "Who's this fellow? Bird? Is that John Bird's son? John and I used to do that all the time to each other." Case dismissed. And that is absolutely true. But now to work. I am convinced, Bruce and Paul, that neither angels nor principalities nor powers, nor things present nor things to come, nor height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. I love to begin every sermon, if you like, for a funeral with that, because it reminds us that nothing shall separate us from the love of God. It reminds us that all of us ultimately will be taken back into God, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. Rubbish, Bird, you want to say, if you're still listening. Well, let me go back and go another way. Without Henry VIII and a recalcitrant Pope, we would not be here. Yet at the time of our great benefactor, King Henry VIII of the 6 wives, no one could have conceived of the jet plane, the television, the internet, racial equality, or the Diocese of El Camino Real. You name your own pet examples. Furthermore, the generations which are to come will take as a given of life every little bit of what we regard as momentous. There is always another world creating itself through our imaginations, our new understandings, and the transforming Spirit of God. It is all part of the divine mind expressing itself, even though we do everything in our power to mess it up, and sometimes intentionally. Each generation is comprehending yet more of the divine purpose. Now, when I was brought to Trinity's school, which you spoke about, you were much younger, and I don't know if you realize, but the day that I came the first time, the school was on the television. Are you old enough to remember that? Television? You do remember television. You don't remember the fact that one of the faculty had been arrested for extreme misconduct, fortunately towards adult parents. And that was why I was brought in. They had lost their chaplain, they'd lost the other person, and someone said, well, there's a young Englishman who plays rugby, why don't you see if he'll come and do a couple of chapels? And I lasted 6 years, not intending it. But it's amazing, and I'm so glad that Trinity brought me in. And Lex, you're here today. I have the clearest memory of you. No, don't hide your head, no. There was a conversation going on, and I thought it was getting rather tedious, and you smiled very nicely and left the group. And when you did that, I believed I could. So I thank you very much indeed, and it's wonderful to see you here. So, Trinity School was a wonderful entry into the United States. But soon I would be at St. Andrews, where Rose, where are you, Rose? Oh, over there. Where we took our nursery school from 40 or 50 students, 40 to 45 students, to 120 or 125. And if only people had agreed that the school should have been developed, wonderful things could have happened, and it would not be closed now and being rented by another denomination. But when the growth was not allowed, I decided it was time to move on. It was a wonderful place to be, and I loved that church incredibly. In fact, one of my friends still has a key, and I went round only 2 months ago before it was going to be rented out and took a look. I was so sad. Grace Church, it was so funny. I got a phone call and someone said, you should really apply for Grace Church, Georgetown. It would be just right for you. Then I thought, well, I wonder. So I sent a letter in, and I got called back. And then my junior warden was called to get a reference. And he said, why do you want a reference for him? And the fellow said, well, we've heard he's got a Ph.D., and we don't want an intellectual. My junior warden said, I can assure you he's not an intellectual, he's a rugby forward. You came in too soon. He is a rugby forward, he is not an intellectual. He happens to have a Ph.D. And so it was decided that they might just interview me. But that was at the time when AIDS was becoming more and more of an issue, and we had a lot of difficulties. Right before that at St. Andrews, the first openly gay male couple came and joined our parish, and I was told they needed to be sent away. Needed to be sent away. So I went to all the couples in that parish who had had divorces and remarried. And I went and sat in their house and said, how has my ministry failed? Oh no, we're very happy with you. I said, no, my ministry has failed. You cannot accept these people. And I did marriages for you when no one else will. How has my ministry failed? When I eventually got to Georgetown, the people who were suffering by them from that disease, one or two of them were fearful that I wouldn't be empathetic enough. Now you know I'm an empathetic person and not just a rugby forward, don't you? But it was always a battle. And yet, when Diane and I met, Diane is over there. She's been controlling my life, thank God, for the last 40 years, roughly. When we got there, we had to deal with, shall we say, an awful lot of issues. But when we first wanted to get married, there was a big attack on the difference in age between us, which is roughly, oh, I'm not allowed to say, am I? They'll find out how old you are. Anyway, we got into the issue again of AIDS, and someone who'd been so supportive of us, a young acolyte from Manhattan, got in touch with us. And then I began to realize that this acolyte who'd been so supportive of our relationship had probably got AIDS, but he couldn't quite bring himself to tell me. And it was so sad because by then I was at Grace Church when he died. He was buried in Philadelphia. There were very few people at the cathedral for the funeral. But I called every person that I knew from the parish in New York, where we'd at least some of us were there at one of the first burials of a person with AIDS from New York. It was tough. However, we went on at Grace Church and it was lots of fun. I eventually left and I came here. Now the only reason I came here, I think, was because, Paul, you came by, you looked at your old parish, and you said, my goodness, you've got a building there. And a building next door, we've been trying to do it for how many years?
Oh, many, many years.
Many, many years. And so the only reason that they thought I might be useful here was they might be able to do this. But when we eventually, after 5 or 6 tries in my time, got a contract, they said, we will only sign the contract if you promise to stay to the end, till we've got it done. I gave the promise, but I did not think it would take them until I was 72. So it's virtually done. So then, let's go to my last words to you, basically. If you look in your bulletins, you don't need to look now, but you will find the golden rule in 12 to 15 religions. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's always been the keystone of what I have tried to do in ministry. Treat others as you would be treated. I hope you will look at that, keep that. Thank you for putting up with me. I really mean that. And I will finish with my favorite story about Welsh rugby. We were playing the town. Now, we had not beaten the town since the Second World War. Town versus Gown was the big game of the year. And there, every order that was given on the field was done in Welsh, so that these English people who'd come out there to play for the college wouldn't know what was going on. And then one day, Glenn, their captain, said, we're going through town, and nothing's going to stop us. So I called out the command for our side in very clear English. We are going through college. We did. I won't say who went through first. We went through, and the town were beaten for the only time since the Second World War. And it's my greatest moment. And I want to tell you, it was so much easier doing that than running any parish I have ever had. Diane, thank you for everything. My kids, thank you for everything. Every friend who is here, thank you for everything. And Mike, we're really enjoying the music. We had to have something to entertain us tonight. In the name of Christ our Lord.